villain? What truly makes a man or a woman a villain? Are they a monster because they're selfish, only pursue their desires and no wants while disregarding everybody else? Or are they the crucium of a vile, vicious, unrelenting, dang near unredeeming individual off the back of security and help of those that can't protect themselves? Are they men that pursue a higher calling while doing all forms of disastrous, destructive, and absolutely abhorrent deeds? Or are they men like Thanos, who pursued the grace of a better world that is not finite stagnation through sacrificing the weak and making the most defined, equal, natural course of selection through the universe being wiped of half of its people, just like this? A Bode Akuna, a father that lost someone he cared about after trying to reform his life and join into a new case of possible civility, possible tranquility, having a beautiful woman and a daughter, but then it was taken from him by an evil, sadistic, power-hungry empire that will go about scorching and laying them but devastation to anyone in the midst of the conquer. Ex-Jedi, Sith demon, Black Force energy, biggest snake in the galaxy. I give you the ocelotto of Star Wars. But who would win? As you see by the title, I'm here obviously to explain why the matchup is surprisingly not close. Now, for the record, it's an obvious with pictures. I'm talking about Thanos of the MCU, not the comics or anything of that sort. Any possible mixed demonstrations outside of this is either mix of different entertainment value or example. With that being said, enough with the long intro. Let's go ahead and get it in. When it came down to Titan's devastation from the inside out, this man Thanos saw the best way possible was to cut the population in half. As even though Titan was a beautiful famed planet, it had too much resources, too cramped, too overly confined to one space, and naturally it was going to collapse in such a detrimental way. When he said his plan, they called him a madman, a psycho, inconsiderate, callous. When they decided to defect from the natural course of things, Thanos fell from the unfortunate case of not only mad dog, eat dog like mindset, and fully culminated in his plan to see his world entirely be now discarded of life. And now Titan stays as a nothing but wasteland, dissolved of life, fallout map. He then fully pushed about the means of adopting, destroying, and fully scourging throughout the universe as a man with an unstoppable armada to wreak house on every obstacle in his way that will come about, not only bringing him and his black, not only gang of goons, and even two assassins that he not only raised as sisters to go and be pretty much his Katana and Jade, or Katana and Melina, and would go about seeking the full fulfillment of making the entire universe come together in a unique middle ground finite cultivation of not only equally precise and equally right world. He would dispose of the weak planets. He would drench planets in their own blood, offer the foundation that if you are weak and hold nothing of greater salvage of resources, that you do not deserve to exist in this world. And so with this being said, Thanos will now go about his full culmination push to make the universe grateful for an actual better divide. Eventually he saw that the stones were the best way to do that. Now, obviously we're not talking about Stone Thanos, but every showcase that I have to greater illustrate this is now going to talk about his actual obviously power scaling, with the fact that Thanos, even in base, has been numerous times shown, narratively said, and verbatim, regardless of the Infinity War or Endgame, to be a very not only impregnable, built different Vato, even if he does not have the cosmic stones. Unlike his comic book counterpart, he is not a cosmic wielding, deviant, D1 killer, Blacker Force energy mongrel, but instead is a very much Blacker Force energy, purple grape vanguard that has a splitting edge Uru blade akin to this nigga Sentinel Prime, and is a very efficient, effective, hand-to-hand combatant, and will do everything in his power to pummel and put people in the dirt in any case of the way. He is a built different galactic bodier, a galactic warmonger. Will go about every sense of the way to see the world dripped in his own case of order, or God is the full credit of everything that he stands for. And so, Thanos, multiple times by this institute, would scale a good deal above the greatest case of not only mainline versions of different characters. And in my and like others different cases, different MCU power scaling tier lists, he would reasonably scale in base, very contingent to high and better than a lot of different stain in different credit of talk and ballroom of different institute of power scaling, as he easily could outdo 3 of the case of the greatest Avengers of all time, and Iron Man, Cap, and this man Thor. Could bully them without the stones in a younger version, making the case of his hypothetical older version a more seasoned, formidable, efficient warrior. He's able to outmuscle Hulk with no actual power stone. That is a myth. And the fact of the matter is that even when he is sometimes outmaneuvered in different aspects of hacks or speed, his resilientness, his resourcefulness, and his more effective fighting skill and style allows him to outdo and outmaneuver those that come at him with greater superiority things. And even when, again, he is outdone in some of these aspects, he still shows out in every aspect of the way to Shao Kahn his way for any opposition. Thanos, when it comes down to greater power scaling in this, right, would easily make him from all of this because of scaling over Thor of not only post-awakening, but as well in multiple other versions, make him be a guy that should be scaling from Thor's feat of shaking a planet that is literally bigger than Earth and Jotunheim, literally multi-country to multi-continental pretty evenly. But then the scaling of other different people in comparison over different people of different similar margins would reasonably make him be a guy that should be scaling to moon level pretty confidently, and as well scaling to multiple different people as well by tier list, different mentions, accountings, someone being able to harm or at least different matching of different very formidable people from being Thor and others, and multiple other people as well that even still actually utilize stones or things of that similar, could very much scale from moon level to small planetary, possibly even plus, depending on how you perceive it. And this is all without stones because of the type of scaling that comes from people like of the Eternals, scaling of multiple different fame, Beastful, built different case of Avengers in opposition to the Avengers, and as well even when he was being a little bit overpowered and overmatched by others, he was still able to just in pure strength hold these people off and give them a great form of work full. Now, Thanos, when it comes down to speed, will be easily scaling massively hypersonic from scaling to lightning and electricity of this man Thor, outmatching, pummeling, and absolutely bodying very proficient high-skill individuals, outmuscling this man Hulk, who is a guy that outscales great form of different versions of Thor for a great deal, and as well is a guy that, again, in proxy, would be scaling to and or over a great deal of others that scale to people of high skill regard, especially when we talk about Captain Marvel, who depending on how you perceive, with him scaling to her coming out from orbit and different mixed speed of light, he also scaling to different light beams and plasma from this man Tony, would get him very much confidently in the relativistic to the speed of light, or even this multi-case of faster than light speeds, which would make Thanos not only in the grounds for being, in this sense, like I said, multiple times fast to the case of speed of light, be over dozens of different people already more with his strength, but mixed with his skill compartment will showcase just how much of an ambidextrous, adaptable behemoth that he really is. Again, he doesn't have any crazy case things going on for him when it comes down to powers, but he very much, because of the fact of how he can scale to people with greater powers, showcases his battle IQ, his expertise, his creativity, his adaptability, and every aspect of his being a shining of a man that can do things like never seen before, because of just being a pillar of my tremendous fear throughout the universe, the Mad Titan Thanos. With that all being said now, time to go ahead and get to the Sith that decided to go to lengths like never seen before for his daughter, and rightfully would sacrifice morale for his loved ones. Bode the Goat Akuna. Bode Akuna. Famed not only ex-Sith, but as well great member of pretty much the galactic form of CIA special superintelligence of the Empire. Father to Bode Akuna, ex-husband Bode Akuna. In his own right, I'm a father. First time I held her, I saw the entire galaxy in her eyes. You can't understand his reason for betraying Cal Kestis, the surrogate reform order, and as well in the grand scope, everybody that he somewhat made a form of brotherhood with, and as well ally with. Man is not only the greatest shot Cal's ever seen, elite with 2 double blasters, moving like John Wick, and as well a user of the Force, is a very much built different, crazed fighter, is ruthless, is untamed, unpredictable, and unorthodox, and has a fury that is ever unyielding. Bode Akuna was a Force-sensitive human male, obviously, who once served as a Jedi Knight, presumably, and was assigned to Republic intelligence by the Jedi High Council under the command of Lank Denvik during the Clone Wars. He undertook several undercover missions throughout the war until Order 66 was issued, leading Bode to abandon his Jedi teachings and disappear. At one point during the Imperial era, he married and started a family with a woman named Tyler, whom he settled down with on a planet called Baron, and together had a daughter they named Bode Akuna. However, he later lost his wife to the Inquisitors and managed to escape with his daughter, becoming a mercenary and freelance gunslinger. After being on the run for so long, Akuna reluctantly cut a deal with his ex-colleague Lake Denvik, now a chief supervisor within the Imperial Security Bureau, who questioned the Inquisitor's capabilities. Akuna offered to work for Denvik as an Imperial agent in exchange for protection for himself and Kata from the Inquisitors. Seeing it as a chance to discredit the Inquisitors, Denvik accepted Akuna's offer and provided private quarters for him and his daughter at the ISB listening post he committed. Right? Not only to this idea for so long, to the point where eventually would have him meet the case of obviously Cal, but with this being said, he holds so much of this, he commanded in the Nova Garen system. Despite his effectiveness as a covert operative, Bode disliked working for the Empire and only saw it as a means to his own survival. During the Stinger Mantis crew's crusade against the Empire, Akuna was tasked with finding and allying himself with the rebel Jedi Cal Kestis and his crew in an effort to locate his second Jedi Master, Seer Judah. Needing to pose him as a mercenary gunslinger with no love for the Empire, Akuna managed to keep his Force-sensitive hidden from Kestis. Despite this duplicity, Akuna came to consider Kestis his best friend, as the two fought several battles together side by side. When Kestis discovered the existence of the hidden planet Tanalorr, Akuna saw it as the perfect opportunity to leave the Empire and disappear with Kata. Having successfully earned Kestis' trust, Akuna accepted Cal's offer to officially join the Stinger Mantis crew in search of Tanalorr and for a time abandoned his previous mission. Despite having found new allies as a part of the Mantis crew, Akuna continued to maintain his cover and convince Kestis into pursuing a romantic relationship with the Night Sister Merrin as a way to manipulate the young Jedi's emotions. Bode continued to fight by Kestis' side up until the climactic lightsaber duel with the Dark Jedi Dagan Gera on the Koba Observatory's observing deck, where the two ultimately defeated Gera. With even beforehand in the second fight, Bode showcasing that even though it was in hiding, his Force capabilities and his Force mixed bag, mind control Jedi trick to be able to be so suppressed that not only Dagan and Cal or anyone else, even Seer Judah, could even sense him. He showcased that he could be possibly relative to the famed Jedi Knight that was one of, if not the greatest at one point in the Order. Now, it has been actually debated in the community who's stronger, Bode Akuna or Dagan. You could argue that in the comment section if you want. I personally perceive in base suppressed capabilities that reasonably Dagan can be better, but absolutely bloodlusting to the fullest on both of them. There's a very great argument for where Bode stands. He definitely scales to Dagan because Dagan scales to Cal. So, that's self-explanatory in every case of the way. Again, moving onward, after the case of his defeat On the Koba Observatory observation deck, where the two ultimately defeated Gara, despite having everything they need to safely reach Tanalorr, Cal's proposition to share the location of Tanalorr with the hidden path worried Bode, as it would reduce the planet's secrecy and would potentially make it possible for the Empire to discover the world as well. Although he was initially willing to travel to Tanalorr together with Cal, Marin, and Grease, Bode ultimately decided to go there alone with Kata after failing to convince Kestis to reconsider his decision of sharing the Hidden World's location with Hidden Path and initiated his backup plan. Feeling he would eventually come into conflict with Kestis, Bode opted to stay behind following Dagon's defeat and secretly took possession of the fallen Jedi's lightsaber. After returning to Jeddah with the rest of the crew to celebrate the victory with Seer, Bode reluctantly betrayed them by anonymously tipping off the Inquisitors to the location of the Path safe house. Despite being offered a chance to reconsider by Jedi Master Eno Cordova, Bode instead murdered Cordova before stealing the Abyss Compass. During the subsequent attack, where he eventually revealed his full sensitivity to Kestis before defeating him in the lightsaber duel and escaping, he then lured Kestis to Dinvik's headquarters so that the Jedi would take out the base and inadvertently destroy any trace of Akuna's survival. Fleeing to Tanalorr with his daughter, the gunslinger was pursued by Kestis and the crew of the Stinger Mantis. Despite being offered mercy by Kestis, Akuna continued to fight him and his crew, aka pretty much just him and Marin, but still culminating in Kestis gunning him down at the end of their duel at Tanalorr, leaving Kata fatherless and seeming alone. But even in aloneness, if that's even a formal case of word, there's still something to be had, as obviously loss shapes us, but does not define us. With this being said, all this would really give is, and again, him being very much a high-skilled, not only Jedi of one point, but a Sith warrior, as he stood tick for tick, bang for bang against Cal, and a lot of occasions showed better force usage and in sense of not only, versatility of different usages of the force, and his mix-up with his lightsaber was able to outdo, outmuscle, and severely put the beats on Cal, and both had them going about pushing themselves to limits that they never thought they could, and even going beyond, with pulling all different essences of blacker force energy, with infamously Cal utilizing the dark side and greater full hole, and then this man Bode really going full off the deep end and trying to fully bloodlustfully kill Cal in multiple occasions with using force choke, trying to T-stab this dude, going full off hardcore. He was trying to star killer, run this nigga's whole fade beyond compare. Bode from this, as I talked about Cal Kestis and other people that scale to him, would scale to all the lower end grand scope feats of this character, but as well scale to the higher grand scope. As again, obviously, this man, Cal, I've talked about, has scaling to say to be lower end to a great deal of different high-end Jedi elite masters, but as well higher than a bunch of different pinnacle high-tier people among the greater deal of the Jedi Order, sealing this man Bode as being reasonable to say in all reasonable perception to be considered to be easily a guy scaling from at lowest end multi-city block to planet level to reasonably scaling way above the case of planet level to even dwarf star to multi-dwarf star level, because again, all the force usages, all the scaling comparison to this man Cal and other people's stuff, but as well in all different confines to reasonably qualify and constitute and reasonably give the credibility to say that he himself, Bode, is very much on a greater case of a greater scaling scuff of different other Jedi warriors and people that have similar scaling to these means, especially with all the case of the force usages that he has. Easily in speed with his own blasters that he has, having 2 twin blasters, a possible fucking jet backpack, right? Where this motherfucker is over here moving around like War Machine in speed, but as well being fly off the handles with the shooting akin to this nigga Falcon, right? With the jet backpack, and again, as well, just scaling in relativity to Cal or anyone else, right? And the mixture of the force that obviously scales to light and other things of that sort that would easily then go about full-fledged making the case of obviously him, Bode, be easily multiple times faster than light to about being pretty good multi-thousands to even hundreds of thousands pushing the speed of light pretty consistently. If it isn't obvious with everything showcased with this man, not only does Bode scale way higher in AP, he would scale higher in speed, and because he has the force and a bunch of other unique different tricks that he can use, from force choke, force pull, and all different other attributes of that sort, that reasonably to me solidifies this man Bode to be an absolute fucking landslide for the Mad Titan. The only way I feel like Thanos at MCU could ever dare stand to Bode is in equal stats. I still think Bode just going full lightsaber dueling against the Uru Blade would outduke this man Thanos if it ever got to a physical bout, even with Bode being physically all reasonably stronger than Cal. Thanos is not only an actual master craftsman of not only martial arts, a combatant and practitioner, man was a galactic commander and dominator, scourger of worlds, fucking life wiper, oppressor in multiple forms, and he also would just scale to people who are way more physically stronger. So that's the only way I could see him possibly winning, is you argue he could overpower him. But even then, this man Bode can use the Force, and the Force is something that even though Thanos wouldn't be entirely uncredible to say he could stand somewhat to, it would be still very severely out of his comprehension, which again would just solidify the reasonable talk and then therefore act to say that Bode would outscale him in almost every credit of the way. Still be a very interesting fight, and it is crazy to think for somebody like Bode of his simplistic look and feel is that much more greater and powerful. Regardless of that though, I hope you guys have enjoyed as always. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I appreciate y'all for watching. I love y'all. Let me know what more you guys will in the comment section down below. Please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon down below. It will really help me out. And as always, have a safe and blessed day. Peace out, my army. Love y'all.